Grail begins with what's normal around here, a ship docking, and what's not normal. Delenn and Lanier giving Sinclair the stink eye because he's not greeting one of the passengers in a manner worthy of his station. The only problem is Sinclair has no idea who she's talking about. So as he scrambles to see that, we check in on some other guy named Jinxo. Well, he's nicknamed Jinxo. I mean, your mother obviously didn't want you if you were actually named Jinxo.
And I've been good to you? Done you a lot of favors? Huh?
Me, my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. Deuce here wants Jinxo to repay his debt to him with information on B5 because Jinxo helped build the place. But the guy doesn't look like he's putting together a tour guide business, so Jinxo refuses. To help change his mind, a woman named Running Deer has been brought here to serve as an object lesson in defying Deuce, and she is soon subjected to something by Kosh? This really doesn't seem like Kosh's crowd. They don't strike me as the kind of people that appreciate a good enigmatic expression. The wind is a suggestion to the leaf that knows how to listen. Yeah, that's very true, Kosh, so do you think they're going to cover the spread or not? Let it ride, you little bitch. Let it ride. Meanwhile, we have a case that needs settling.
We went through their archives and we found proof that his great-grandfather abducted my great-grandfather and just took him away in a spaceship. Frankly, Your Honor, we want damages.
I'll be. Turns out the truth really is out there. Way out there. I knew it. Trying to play the race card, just like always. Anyway, while that's dealt with, we finally get to our new arrival, Aldous, a human, actually, despite the importance that the Minbari have placed upon his arrival. Aldous gives us another chance to enjoy the fine acting of David Warner, whom you might know from his previous work in Everything Ever Made. I hope someday to be able to review Beastmaster, The Eye of Braxis, to have a work that somehow manages to contain both David Warner and Tony Todd within it, and somehow not explode from sheer greatness. Seriously, so great an actor is Warner that when he says he came to Babylon 5 in search of the Holy Grail, I'm inclined to at least give him the benefit of the doubt. The story, on the other hand, not so much. Sinclair tries to be polite, but he can't take this seriously, and says as much to Delenn. But she says that his search is worthy of the utmost respect, regardless of the likelihood of its success. And when it's asks aliens if they've seen a magic relic, those odds are pretty long. Especially when he doesn't even notice when Jinxo clumsily robs him. Gonna be hard to take him seriously if he goes on about his ever-watchful eye seeking the cup, and when he had turned back to look at him, he's standing there in his underwear because thieves made off with his clothes. Over in MedLab, Dr. Franklin called Sinclair in because that woman that got felt up by Kosh earlier has shown up with her brain wiped, the latest in a string of cases. So much so that Garibaldi wants to sweep through the whole sector to clear everybody out. But Sinclair won't have it. Sure, there's criminals there, but that area is mostly filled with helpless people who have fallen through the cracks. Came here looking for a future, and when they couldn't find one, well, they're stuck here. You can't exactly walk back home. Garibaldi's mood isn't helped when he spots the patient. She was going to testify for him today, pointing out who Deuce is based upon his face, and now she probably couldn't even tell you what a face is. Meanwhile, back in court, the sentence is handed down for Jinxo. He's a skilled construction worker who can get a job if he just tried, so they're going to ship his ass out of here and tell him not to come back. Jinxo freaks out over this, so at Aldous' request, the sentence is set aside, and Jinxo will be remanded into the custody of Aldous, Jinxo's victim. That sounds familiar.
So the judge decrees that he becomes my butler.
Your butler?
Right. He cooks my food, he cleans my house, he does all my shopping for me, and there you go. That's your program.
Jinxo explains his freak-out, that he is the Babylon Curse, the reason that this is number 5. He worked in space construction building the first Babylon station, and when he took his leave, the place was destroyed by sabotage. He went to work on the second one, and when he took leave, that one blew up. On the third one, same damn thing. Well, after that, he got nicknamed Jinxo on account of he's always being connected to the destruction of the Babylon stations. So on Babylon 4, he stayed on the station the entire time until it was finished, because he didn't want to take any chances. Then after he left, he watched it vanish into thin air. which naturally freaked him out. I mean, the firsts are weird coincidences, but then the fourth comes along when the thing, it's not like it disappeared behind some trees and was never seen again. He watched it get sucked up the asshole of space and time. That'd be enough to make even James Randi pause. So with Babylon 5, he worked on it, he finished it, and he stayed. No way to make a living, but terrified that if he left, space locusts were going to come and eat the place or something. Aldous figures that this is all backwards, though. Jigsaw didn't cause the problem. He was a man blessed enough to escape disaster every time. Well, he's going to need some help, because Deuce is going to come for the money regardless of what Aldous' good intentions are, and he's unlikely to take any crap, regardless of being named Deuce. Speaking of Deuce, Garibaldi is steamed about the case being thrown out because running deer's a vegetable, and it's all Sinclair can do to stop him from turning full Gestapo on trying to get Deuce convicted. At least they have a connection, though, thanks to Dr. Franklin, who says that there are a few sketchy records of a creature, a Nakaline feeder, that does this kind of thing to people, heavily quarantined in Centauri space, and who better to get one here than a big-time smuggler like Deuce? Assuming it wasn't hidden inside a Pokeball, of course. So they ask Londo about it, and it's just about the only thing that could terrify him in the midst of a good mood. Despite being one of the masters of deceit and misinformation over the course of the series, right now he promises every last bit of information he has before running off to his quarters, presumably to hide under his desk and put on a motorcycle helmet, just in case. While Londo's off probing every corner of his room with a hockey stick, Aldous and Jigsaw swing by Delenz to learn that, shockingly, the Holy Grail is not with them in Bari, but they'll send word for everyone to keep an eye out in case it turns up. During this, the discussion turns to the nature of the two castes. The workers are excluded because, they're always excluded. Religion and warriors call the shots. It's like a Bertrand Russell nightmare society.
These two sides of your culture, do they ever agree on anything?
Yes. And when they do, it is a terrible thing.
The Inhumans TV series? We did that. I'm so sorry. Their next step is Londo, who is busy reaming some bureaucrat over the drop-in quarantine around the extremely dangerous planet that allows the even more dangerous Nakaline feeder to get out. And then peeved to see these two hear about a quest. Although, what do you really expect them to be doing? I mean, you've got a monk and a thief. All you need is a dwarf or a knight, and this is a role-playing adventure. The only thing he's hoping to get out of this is maybe some money from these rubes. But he underestimated Veer's helpfulness and did all of the research already to see if they have seen any signs of the Grail. Londo grinds his teeth and kindly asks Aldous to larp off out of there. Jigsaw feels, hey, we've heard my backstory, how about yours? So Aldous explains that he used to be an accountant at a big company, but on vacation on Mars, there was an accident. His wife and kids were all killed, while he suffered only bumps and bruises. We can thus conclude that this is why he thinks Jigsaw is fortunate instead of a jinx, that like himself, when there was a disaster, he alone was in the right place to survive it. Meanwhile, in the wrong place to survive is the judge, who gets kidnapped during recess. Damn it. I hate when that happens. Kidnapping during recess just proves that overprotective busybodies are right. Well, the bad guys are into multitasking, because they also stop by to collect the money from Jigsaw while they're out. But they forget the surprise factor of the monk class, and he quickly takes the guys down with his staff.
Can I learn to do that?
You can learn whatever you want to learn because you are a man of infinite promise and goodness.
Yeah, that's me. Show me how to hit people in the face. Well, the last stop is Kosh, only Jigsaw thinks that Kosh is the one eating people's minds for Deuce, so he pleads with Aldous to leave and then runs off. And after the pursuit, Aldous gets hit with a cattle prod, and the only ancient relic he's got now are some lotuses to help him take a little nap. We pick up with the judge apparently ready to go on a roller coaster ride, when Aldous is brought in, and so too is the Nakaline cosplaying as Kosh. It opens up and lets out its tentacle, which looks suspiciously like Londo's ding-a-ling as seen previously. No wonder Londo's so upset. But Aldous steps forward and intervenes, using force of will to hold the creature back and convince it to come out of its shell for them to show off their CGI monster. But the spell is broken when Garibaldi and his forces burst in, guns blazing. Don't worry, everyone, I brought the stick. Now we're safe. In the midst of trouble, the judge is a sitting duck, so Jinxo slips over to free him, but Deuce plans to shoot the guy on general principle. Aldous intervenes, taking the shot, but being fatally wounded in the arm. And the Knockaline is knocking on heaven's door after a few hundred shots from the good guys hit it. But while that's good, it's too late for Aldous. But not to worry, Jinxo offers to take up the quest and go on carrying the stick in the name of the cause, and inherits all of Aldous' stuff to try to do it. He sure picked the right pocket, didn't he? Jinxo even shows up at the end to escort Aldous' remains back home, and then to begin the quest. You know, though, they never did get a chance to question Jakar about it, did they? Then again, I have a feeling on how that conversation would go.
Well, I'll ask him, but I don't think he'll be very keen. He's already got one, you see?
Grail gets a stamp of watchable for the guest star. David Warner is one of the few bright spots in an otherwise totally unremarkable outing, managing to give his weakly written part enough strength to at least not make it embarrassing. And that shouldn't be undersold. First, because it means that he steals every scene that he's in away from viewpoint character Jinxo, and it showcases how talented he is when you look at how other guest actors in the first season stepped in and were lifeless, or over the top, or embarrassing. It may seem like I'm gushing here, but comparing him to, say, Steven's mentor in Infection, or Garibaldi's boxing friend in TKO, you can quickly see how they crater. Now, the episode isn't terrible, but it's very bland. Discussion of the series has suggested that Season 1 is weak because it's world building, but the world building could have only benefited from a better story. I'm not even saying that seeking out the Holy Grail is completely absurd. As hard as it is, I was willing to push that aside and say, okay, show, give me what you got here. I'll accept it, just give me a reason. And I'll admit, it was a brave choice to make the quest literal, that he is looking for the actual relic and not as a metaphor or a bit of alien technology. But for all the ambition, the rest of the episode lets it down. Grail is, ironically, not an episode worth seeking out. Plus, I couldn't help but notice, with the whole idea of the Holy Grail and thinking of Monty Python, the similarity between the Babylon Project and Swamp Castle. Right?
It sank into the swamp. So, I built a second one. That sank into the swamp. So I built a third one. That burned down, fell over, then sank into the swamp.